Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and in today's video we're going to take a look at Astro's Playroom for the PS5. Let's get into it. So I got my PS5, and one of the first games that I had for it was Astro's Playroom. It actually comes free for the PS5. Anyone who has a PS5 is able to play this, and wow, what an amazing game. First off, the whole point or purpose, I think, of this game was to really highlight the capabilities of the DualSense controller. For those of you who don't know, the new controller for the PS5 is not called the DualShock like the previous one. It's called the DualSense, and basically what it does is it has haptic feedback, and it vibrates differently. The triggers have resistance, I guess, to them, if that's what you want to call it. But the controller is freaking amazing. I think it's the best controller that we've ever seen, period. And I love the Xbox controller. This one's huge. But going back to the game, the whole point of this game is to really highlight the features that this shows. And so basically you go through Astro's Playroom. It kind of gives me like a Nintendo type vibe. Basically you have four like main-ish areas that you go through and explore. You got the Memory Meadow, the SSD Speedway, the Cooling Springs, and the GPU Jungle. These are just different parts of the PS5, and it kind of highlights, you know, some features that it does. In some areas, like the first area that I did, you kind of get in like this little spring dude, and the triggers are like they're a little bit harder to pull back. They have like some resistance because it's like the spring pushing down, and then you let go and it jumps. It's crazy. And then in the other area, you kind of roll up into a ball, and PlayStation's had this touchpad that's on the top that you've never really used for anything. I can think of a few games that really used it, but out of the games that did use it, they didn't use it to the extent that this did. This one was making you kind of like draw around and steer, and I think the only game that kind of came close was Horizon Zero Dawn, and you would push it because you had like this little ear thing that lets you see the weaknesses on robots kind of thing. But this game wasn't hard at all. It was actually really easy, so it's not like difficult or anything. It was purely just for fun. Like, this game, I enjoyed it so much. I actually enjoyed it so much that this is the first game that I got a platinum trophy for on my new PS5. So that's how much I did it. I had fun, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and get all the trophies for it. And at the same time that it does this, it kind of goes through, and some of the artifacts you find are like old PlayStation things. I don't even know. Like, there's the old systems, but then there's like a bunch of stuff that I didn't even know Sony had made. Like, there's all like the guns, and there's like this weird like L triangle thing to put like hard drives in. Like, Sony's come up with a lot of weird stuff in the past, and this was kind of like showed like the history of the PlayStation within this game. It was awesome. There's even times where you get inside this little little spaceship, and you have to use the triggers to kind of maneuver around, and just like the game does a super good job. I've said this already, a super good job of just highlighting the features of the DualSense. When you're walking around like in the sand, it makes like a weird like kind of crunchy kind of rumble, but then when you're on like metal, it makes like a tink 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 tink. So like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain without like just playing it. But yeah, the design of the game was fun. Like I said, it was giving me hardcore like Nintendo type feels. Not quite like Mario, but like it looks like something that would be in a Nintendo game, Nintendo Switch. Lots of different areas. Like I said, all these the four main areas kind of highlighted really what the PS5 can do, because the PS5's new, and there's only dropping stuff. There's only a few games that really are just for the PS5, like Godfall. Godfall has a little bit of like the haptic feedback. Basically, well, like when you get like enough like swings, the last one, if you use the trigger, you can kind of feel it like charge and does a little bit more damage. Miles Morales Spider-Man, that does it as well, like when you're swinging, but nothing does it to the extent that they did with this. Like, they put a lot of time. They're like, all right, we got this cool controller, we got this cool system, let's make a game where it highlights all our features. And I think they did a super great job. Let's kind of go through each of these areas. So like the memory meadow, if I remember right, that's the one that you kind of turn into a ball and you kind of use the touchpad to wheel around, and there's a part like where it's like muddy and like the controller feels like grindy, like when you're like going through it. This probably doesn't make any sense to people watching it. It's like one of those things that you definitely just have to play with yourself, have it in your hands, play the game to really understand what I'm talking about. The SSD Speedway, kind of cool. You kind of get in this like glider, and you have to like use the controller to tilt. Very similar to, you know, the Kinect, not the Kinect. What do they have? Like VR type stuff. But this is just a normal controller. I don't even own a VR headset or anything. Excuse me. The cooling springs, we kind of talked about already. That's the one with the springs. And then the last one was the the GPU jungle. You're like this monkey and you have to kind of grab them. It makes like a weird like click when you hit the triggers, and you kind of tilt it, you know, left to right to make the robot monkey go up. But you know, overall, I thought this game was super fun. I found myself kind of playing that more than some of my other new games at the moment, like Spider-Man and Godfall. Not to say that those games are bad, by all means. So I've been having fun with both of those games, but this one was just kind of one that I could sit and relax, and I didn't have to, you know, pay attention to, because there wasn't really a story. And then at the end, there was kind of like this kind of throwback to like when Sony first PlayStation, whatever, and you're like fighting this two different T-Rexes and, you know, a regular one, and then you fight a robot one. That was super fun. That was basically like the end of the game. After you got all 4 worlds unlocked, you unlocked like this 5th little boss level at the end. So that was a lot of fun. And just like the little like gimmicks, you know, that you can get, like it really, there's this part where you get a bow and arrow, and you can really feel like the tension when you're pulling back on the trigger. It's almost like, not like you're pulling a real bow, but like more realistic, because before it was just kind of hit the triggers and you shoot arrows. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, for example, is exactly that. You're just click, 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 and then you're shooting arrows. But this one, you kind of had to pull it back, and if you barely did it and let go, the arrow would just kind of go wham. So basically, like the further you pulled it back is the more that he drew the bow back. So I thought that was pretty cool. You also get this like little ball gun that shoots like little plasma balls, and that one was kind of cool because it like was almost like shooting a real gun. Like there's, when you pull the trigger, it's not just real light and easy and sensitive. It's, you know, it took a little bit of resistance, and it kind of like popped, you know, like the controller, like almost like a real firearm when you're shooting it and it pops back. And I thought that was really cool. The whole point of the DualSense is to make gaming more immersive, and I really enjoyed that. And this game was spot on. It was so fun. I find myself really enjoying it. The graphics and everything looked great. I'm hoping that they translate good onto YouTube, because I know YouTube kind of downgrades things a little bit. But overall, I thought this game was fantastic. Unfortunately, you can only play this game if you had a PS5. So those that haven't got one, and I know it's pretty sparse because not everyone can get a PS5 at the moment, they're pretty much non-existent. But if you do have yourself a PS5 and you haven't played this game yet, I highly recommend it. And just with all my other reviews, if I were to give this a rating out of 10, I'd give it a solid 8. Like, it was perfect. It wasn't the best game in the world by any means, but I think it did a fantastic job highlighting all the things, all the great features that the DualSense can do, all its capabilities, and having fun at the same time. So, like I said, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. Fantastic game. Thanks everyone for tuning in to the video. If you enjoyed the content, please consider being a subscriber. And if you're already a subscriber and you're watching this video, you're freaking awesome, and we'll see you next time.